What's good, YouTube? Today in this video, I'm going to be going over a recent warning that the puppet politician Kevin McCarthy recently made about how there's potential terrorist sleeper cells in the U.S. And when I hear things like this being stated, it makes me think that they're in the process of pulling off a 9/11 style event. Now, that's not to say that it's going to be exactly like that, but I feel like they're going to, eventually, I'm not, setting any dates or anything like that. But just like how we know for certain that they're planning a bigger event than what we saw in 2020, a bigger, scam event than what we saw in 2020. I feel the same way about this exact thing, in the sense that I think that they're going to pull off something bigger than 9/11 with a similar narrative, right, as to what they used in when that event took place in 2001. But it's probably going to be a lot bigger. It's going to probably be something far worse than what happened during that day. And they're probably still going to use that same narrative of blaming you know who for, and you guys know who I'm talking about. They're going to blame a specific group of people for being what they call, terrorists. And they're going to deflect attention away from the real problem and the real terrorists, which is, the people who are running this world and the people who are in charge of implementing these agendas and whatnot. You guys know who exactly I'm talking about. So, yeah, I'm going to get right into this video. It's only 30 seconds long. It's not really that much, but I'm going to also go into another article that talks about it in more detail. And then I'm going to go over another article that's similar to the subject, basically. And that article is actually a warning that the FBI made, which is another organization that is run by those same people who are behind these agendas. So, yeah, I'm going to get right into the video right now.
I'm concerned about a cell sitting inside America today. We just caught 18 people just last month on the FBI terrorist watch list coming across our border. More than 160 have done it this year, a record breaking. When we're looking around the Middle East and the uprisings popping up around Europe and others, they could be sleeper cells right now in America, but this administration has done nothing to change what's happening on the southern border.
But it's funny. They'll never expose who the real problem is. Because, these people on these media outlets are just puppets, just playing their role, telling, doing what they're told by their bosses and all of that.
We have to step up together, building the broadest and deepest coalition.
And then they got this clown talking too.
To strengthen.
And here goes the next article that I wanted to share with you guys. And it goes into more detail about his warning. And it says, ex-House Speaker Kevin McCarthy warns of potential terrorist sleeper cells in U.S. after Hamas massacre in Israel, and claims Biden's southern border crisis is helping bolster their numbers. Goes on to say, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy claimed Biden's southern border crisis is helping bolster the number of terrorists entering the U.S. He also said getting the American hostages home is a top priority, and Israel ought to have every resource they need to defend themselves. Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has warned there could be potential terrorist sleeper cells in the U.S. following the heightened tensions after Hamas massacre in Israel. Ousted Republican McCarthy claimed President Joe Biden's southern border crisis is helping bolster the number of terrorists entering the U.S., with 18 people on the FBI's watch list having been arrested last month. He said getting the American hostages trapped in Gaza home is a top priority, and that Israel ought to have they just keep regurgitating the same thing that they already said on this article. Speaking to NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, McCarthy said, if you simply look at what's the chaos right now, a wide open southern border, I'm concerned about a cell sitting inside America today. Then it goes on to say, it's just saying the same thing, basically, once again. but it shows a photo right here. It says migrants who crossed into the U.S. from Mexico are met with concertina wire, along with Rio Grande. A total of 169 people on the FBI terror watch list were apprehended at the southern border in the past 12 months, according to the Customs and Border Protection. Then it has like a video right here of migrants climbing through razor wire. Let me see if it'll, hopefully it doesn't play an ad or anything. Let's see what this is about. And then they send me to some BS website. Yeah, forget it. It's just gonna keep acting up, I guess. It goes on to say we just caught 18 people just last month on the FBI terror watch list coming across our border. More than 160 have done it this year. When we're looking around the Middle East and the uprisings popping up around Europe and others, they could be sleeper cells right now in America. But this administration hasn't done anything to change what's happening on the southern border. We got government funding where our troops wouldn't be paid sitting here in a month. And we also got a garbage economy where the vast majority of people are struggling to keep up with the cost of living too. But of course, they're not putting any money towards helping people out because they never gave a flying F about you anyways. They don't care about helping people out. They're literally criminals. Tom Emmer has been part of our successes from not just winning the majority, but being in the room to help us pass a border security bill to make us energy independent. Parents Bill of Rights to stand up when the Democrats wanted to fund the police and or defund the police and decriminalize some of those laws. I don't even buy into this whole left-right paradigm BS. And he has been successful. This is not a time for a learning experience as speaker. A total of 169 people on the FBI terror watch list were apprehended. Once again, repeating the same thing that they already said. That is a higher number of terrorists attempting to enter the U.S. via the southern border seen in the last 6 fiscal years combined. Speaking about his upcoming plans to help in the Middle East, McCarthy said he's going to help destroy Hamas and get all American hostages home. So once again, they're promoting that whole narrative of basically Islamic terrorists and whatnot, when literally in reality, both sides are literally controlled by the same people. Never forget, because I know I've seen a lot of people as well. And after I say this, I'm going to get into the next article because I don't want to read through this entire thing and make it too long. But I see way too many people in the so-called truth community acting like Israel is such an amazing country. And let me remind you guys that Israel was the same country that was literally going along with the entire scam that began in 2020 and enforcing the tyrannical BS that was taking place during that time. And keep in mind that they were the ones saying, oh, if you don't get this thing in your arm, you're not going to be able to go back to work. You're not going to be able to, go into grocery stores if you don't get injected with this, right? They were the same country enforcing this tyrannical nonsense. And look how quickly and easily people forget how full of garbage these types of places are, right? And the people who are running these countries are. Netanyahu is a puppet for the NWO. Just the same thing with the leader of the country of Palestine, right? It's the same thing. These people are all working together. These wars and these events that are taking place are all orchestrated by design to further an agenda. And there's way too many people acting like, oh, this country is better than this country, or that country is better than this country, when in reality, they're all controlled by the same people, and none of them are truly on your side. So, yeah, I see way too many people acting like Israel is on our side or Palestine is on our side. Both sides are literally controlled by the same people. And guess what? At the end of the day, there's also victims from both sides, too. Innocent children from both sides losing their lives to the criminals that are running this entire show. So never forget that. It's actually a disgrace too. Way too many people acting like, oh, this side is better than the other, but they fail to see the bigger picture. It's just same divide and conquer tactics. And these fake so-called truthers just fall for it every single time. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You know, if you're buying into it, you're just being played like a fiddle. So, yeah, I'm going to get into the next article. And here's the last article, and it says, FBI warns terrorism threat in America is at an all-time high following Hamas attack. Then it goes on to say, the terror threat against the U.S. reached a whole other level after Hamas sneak attack on Israel. FBI Director Christopher Wray told Congress on Tuesday, saying the big players in terrorism have all renewed calls to attack America and its interests. I don't buy these narratives about, oh, this country is, the real terrorists and that country is better than this country and all of that nonsense. Because in reality, we all know who the real terrorists are, and it's the people who are running these agendas and behind these orchestrated events, obviously. But it goes on to say, he said Al-Qaeda has issued its most specific call for attacks on the U.S. in years. Islamic State leaders ordered followers to attack Jewish communities, and Hezbollah is eyeing U.S. targets in the Middle East. Iran, meanwhile, has pushed proxy attacks on U.S. military bases. The reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of attack on Americans to a whole other level. He said the greatest threat to the U.S. still comes from lone actors or small cells of radicalized people using weapons to attack soft targets, but Hamas' October 7th raid on Israel has made the possibility of a foreign-based attack more likely. Christine, director of the National Counterterrorism Center, said the situation quickly reversed from just before the Hamas attack, when the U.S. judged the threat from Middle East-based terrorism networks to be diminished. She said groups like Al-Qaeda still have less operational capacity than they did in the past, but they are seeking to use the Hamas attack as a chance to rebuild and recruit. So, yeah, I mean, you guys get the point. I mean, the whole conflict with Israel and Hamas is escalating. Kevin McCarthy just recently basically issued a dire warning about possible, what they call, terror sleeper cells in the U.S. But in reality, like I said, we already know who the real terrorists are. And it's those people who are orchestrating these events, the same people running the entire NWO, the same people that orchestrated the big scam event that happened in 2020, right? Those are the same people who are waging war against humanity, and those are the people who are the real problems. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. But keep prepping yourselves, guys, because like I said before, you never know when they're going to pull off these major events. And the major events that I'm talking about are much bigger than what we've already seen in the past. I'm talking about, the next big scam event. I'm talking about the next big, 9/11 style type of event, right? I'm talking about stuff like that, except it's going to be much worse than what's happened in the past, right? Because whenever they pull off these events, it's going to be far more devastating. It's going to be far more tyrannical. It's going to be far more wide scale than what we already seen. And the lies and the manipulation and the deceit is also just going to keep escalating as well, like we've already been seeing. I mean, just so many different things happening. I mean, you got cost of living crisis. You got the 2024 puppet show on the horizon. I mean, so many different things like that are on the way. And as we get closer to 2030, you can expect a lot more false flags and psyops to be taking place, because the reality is that's what they need to do. That's what they need to roll out to further implement their plans. So